Hey, shoot. I think you know what time it is already. It's Hoops with KELZ. Is Hoops with KELZ. Let's go.
Hey everybody, my name is KELZ and I want to welcome you to the first ever episode of Hoops with KELZ, where we're going to be talking everything NBA and WNBA. And since we're pretty much 95% through the NBA season, I felt like it was appropriate to go ahead and start off with the NBA to not only give you the updates and what's going on, what's going to be happening in the bubble, but also give you a whole recap of what happened so far in the NBA, and we have to start all the way back into the offseason. Because I'm not going to lie to you, this NBA season I was extremely excited for, not only because of all the offseason moves, but the parity that the NBA was going to have. Something that, really has been lacking for a long time. We're moving from an era of big threes, right? We're talking Boston Big Three in Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, and Ray Allen. Moving to my South Beach Big Three in LeBron James, Chris Paul, and Dwayne Wade. And then going to the Warriors. I mean, essentially Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and Klay Thompson was technically a big three, but if you want to go a step further, you can just say Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, and Klay Thompson was a bad big three as well. But we're moving into a new era to where the big three are no longer in existence, and it's really now dynamic duos. We're talking Kawhi Leonard teaming up with Paul George, Anthony Davis teaming up with LeBron James, Doncic and Porzingis getting a chance to play with each other for a full season healthy or whatever, Russell Westbrook and James Harden teaming up in Houston. I mean, there was a lot of things to be excited about in this season, and believe it or not, I think this was going to be one of the best seasons in the NBA in a really long time, just for the mere fact that there's about 7 to 8 teams that had a legitimate chance of winning the NBA Finals, and they had some serious star power to go ahead and take care of business when it gets to the playoff run. So we had all of those things going. We had a Philadelphia 76ers team who, again, they say trust the process. They've been trusting the process, and it seems like they are just about to get onto the cusp of greatness, especially on how, their season ended last year with Kawhi Leonard just tough corner jump shot to propel them into the NBA Finals. That was a big-time heartbreaker. But when you add a guy like Al Horford, who is an all-star vet, who's been in the league and who has been in some pressure, tough situations, and a guy like Josh Richardson, who is just, developing a name in the NBA after a big-time breakout season, you were thinking that the Philadelphia 76ers was about to win the NBA Finals. At least I was. Obviously, that may not be the case, but we're going to talk about that another day. But, we're talking about Jimmy Butler moving to South Beach, and even when he got traded to South Beach with Josh Richardson and a few other players, nobody really thought anything of it, but he has also had a humongous impact in Miami as well. The Greek Freak developing a jump shot, already coming off of an NBA MVP season, and he's adding a jump shot to his game. All of these things really made this season one of the most anticipated seasons in an extremely long time. And granted, I have not even got to Zion Williamson, who's that? And Ja Morant. You know what I'm saying? I haven't even gotten to the generational type talents that this draft has given us. And there's an undrafted dude named Kendrick Nunn. Nobody knew nothing about him, right? So again, this is another opportunity for a beautiful season, and I was extremely excited for it. And then everything was going good until 2020 hit. 2020 hit and came with some punches, like some serious haymakers. Speaking of haymakers, Mike Tyson's coming back into the ring, like those type of haymakers. Hey, they came in with Kobe Bryant passing at such a young age with his daughter. And the news, when I had first heard, I did not think it was true. Like, when I had seen that on my Instagram feed, I'm like, why would somebody lie about that? Like, that's not even, like, who would make up some crazy story like Kobe Bryant dying? And then to find out that it was true, and it took me about a week and a half to, like, really come to reality. Like, yo, he really did pass on that plane. So when that had hit me, I know a lot of NBA players, a lot of people that like the NBA or just enjoy basketball in general, that had hit hard to them as well, just like how it did me. Now, something good did come out of it. I believe what the NBA did in the All-Star game and honoring Kobe Bryant and Gianna, giving one team the number 24 and giving the other team 2 to honor both of them, I thought was absolutely fantastic. To be honest with you, I think this All-Star game was probably one of the best All-Star games I've seen in a really long time. I think the two closest All-Star games that were really, really good was Atlanta 2003 with Michael Jordan in it. And then also, I believe it was 2010 when LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh were first together in Dallas, that All-Star game. So, what made this All-Star game so good, I believe they kind of added like a street ball type of vibe to it. Because, you know, when you go to the course, either it be indoor or outdoor, you're playing up to a certain number, 21 mostly, sometimes 12, sometimes 7, all depending on the type of people you're hooping with, etc., etc. So it gave like that type of street type of vibe, and it's the NBA's best players, and they were actually going at it. So that's what really made this probably the best All-Star game that I've seen. I think it's better than Atlanta. I think it's better than Dallas. And all because they added that 24 at the end. And the way they did it was, you know, whatever the score is at the end of the third quarter, the team that has the highest points, you just add 24 to it, and that's, you know, how the game finished. Now, my only objection to how it went was, you can't win the game on a free throw. You gotta earn that. You know what I'm saying? I think the league next year when they do the All-Star game, I think they should have they can keep it to 24 just to honor Kobe every single year. And then you have to actually score a basket in order to finish it instead of just ending it on a free throw. Just because it's an All-Star game, it's not like it's a real game to where you actually, you know what I'm saying, have to shoot your free throws, because that's actually a foul.
Back to Kobe.
We're honoring Kobe Bryant, who had a humongous impact on a lot of the players that are in the game now. Because essentially, my generation, he was our Michael Jordan, right? His generation, Michael Jordan was their Michael Jordan. That was our Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, and you know, this younger generation now, and LeBron James, because he has definitely done some amazing things on and off the court as well. So then moving forward, the trade deadline, there were some teams that made some, you know, pretty decent moves as far as with the Clippers. The Clippers got, you know, Reggie Jackson, who is a really, really good point guard, a solid starting point guard who is going to be coming off the bench. I mean, the Clippers have benches so crazy, and I'm going to go get more into detail when I do team previews and stuff like that for the playoffs and stuff. But, you know, the Clippers adding Reggie Jackson, and not only Reggie Jackson, but Marcus Morris, who was a career average 12 points per game. He's averaging almost 18 points per game this season. He's having one of his best NBA seasons that he's had in his career. And those are two really key pieces that the Clippers added to, which was already a pretty damn good team. Excuse my language. So we have that going on. Andre Iguodala gets moved over to Miami Heat. Miami Heat has exceeded a lot of expectations this year with a lot of no-name players like a Duncan Robinson and Kendrick Nunn. You know, guys that a lot of people have no idea who they are coming into this season. They know who they are pretty much kind of right now, kind of. But adding Andre Iguodala just gives them some more veteran presence, something that the Heat, you know, has all the time with a guy like Udonis Haslem, who's been with the franchise for 17 years. Another interesting move that was happened close to the trade deadline, Capella going to Atlanta, and the Rockets playing small ball. PJ Tucker is the center. That was a head scratcher in my book, but it seems like, you know, GM for the Houston Rockets and Mike D'Antoni, they have a plan, and you know, they had some success. How long can they sustain it, especially in playoff series? We're gonna go ahead and have to see how that works. But I know they have two really good guys in James Harden and Russell Westbrook, who are dogs and pretty much can score at will whenever they feel like. So I'm excited to see all those things. I mean, the Jazz got Jordan Clarkson, who, you know, again, has been a pretty good player throughout his whole career, making a big statement off the bench, and, you know, a guy that can easily win a Sixth Man of the Year before his, you know, career is over. So we had all those things going on. But then, as you think, things will get worse, because things were kind of bad. I was kind of sad for a while about Kobe. Here comes Miss Rona. Miss Rona came up and said, I'm shutting everything down. Ain't no sports for you. Ain't no sports for you. Sit your behind home. That's what Miss Rona was trying to tell everybody in the United States. And it really all started because the virus has been going on since January. It really all started March 11th when we found out that Rudy Gobert had the virus. And when we realized that an NBA player can get it, it was almost like the world stopped. Like, it don't matter how much money you have or the type of social status that you have, the virus does not care. So when that had happened, and it's crazy because just imagine being in OKC, getting ready to watch OKC play against Utah Jazz. And you just see right before tip-off, these guys in black suits running out, talking to officials, talking about something. Season is done, season is canceled, season is suspended, right? And you got to go ahead and go home. Like, that was a surreal moment, and I can only imagine what was going on in the players that were there, all the Thunder players and all of the Jazz players. And the Jazz couldn't leave until about 5-6 hours after they had already canceled the game. So it was a lot of things going on. So you have the coronavirus coming in. And then not only that, to add insult to injury, while we are all home and we're learning new vocabulary, or I wouldn't even say new vocabulary, but we're using new vocabulary such as social distancing and staying 6 feet apart. Like, I have never heard those things before. I never heard social distancing until this year. I know what it means, but these are things that we've never, used, and this is like new times in a sense. So we have all that going on. Next thing you know, here comes Ahmaud Arbery. Shortly after that, here comes George Floyd, and then you have Breonna Taylor. All African Americans, all black people that were killed by the hands of white folks. And it seems like it was racially motivated in a sense, right? What really magnified this whole situation was the George Floyd incident with the police officer just chilling on my man's neck as if he was posing for a picture, as if he just got him a trophy, or as if he killed a deer and I got the deer's antlers up and I'm just showing everybody because I just hunted me an animal. That's exactly what happened with George Floyd. And that has started a humongous conversation, not only nationally, but in the globe. I have never seen the amount of protests nationally. I've never seen the amount of people, all different areas, all different ways of life, living, coming together for one common cause, because Black lives do matter. And the way I'm not trying to get into politics or more into the social injustice, but this is stuff that's been happening for an extremely long time. And not only that, like Sam Cooke says, change has to come. Change is gonna come. And he wrote that song in '62, and we still haven't really gotten change. But hopefully with this conversation starting now, change may potentially come. And one of the great things, about getting this going is like the conversations being started, and it got to the point to where the players were put in a conflicted situation. And here's the conflict. You have the virus and potentially getting infected with it. Then you have the social injustice, and if you play, you may be a distraction to the cause. So it came down to a question, and this is like a spin-off of Shakespeare, to play or not to play. And that must have been a really tough position for all these NBA players. Because, you are so close to finishing, the goal. For an example, like a LeBron James, who, he ain't no spring chicken. Now, granted, he plays like he is, but in reality, he's not. So, potentially losing a year that he was really competitive, a year that he was leading the Western Conference in the standings, his team was, a year that he could add another championship to his resume to get closer to the GOAT, which is, Michael Jordan. But this really sparked a conversation on, really, is it worth playing? Am I really going to get infected? Or am I really going to be a distraction to, a cause that's been going on for so long, and we're finally starting to see changes to going in our favor. So, it was a really complexing situation for a lot of NBA players. Now, I think the NBA did an absolutely excellent job of, nullifying the fears of most NBA players as far as in both aspects. And I think they've done a good job of not only handling the social injustice aspect of things, but also creating, safety protocols so that the NBA players can be safe. right? You don't want to put them in an environment to where they're not safe and they could put their own lives at risk. So between the protocol, and they have some serious protocols. I mean, they even have a snitch line to like, hey, if you see somebody out there, you better go ahead and let somebody know, and we'll make sure we keep you anonymous, right? They have everything set up to where they're really trying to make sure that none of the players gets infected, all the players stay safe. And not only that, they're giving the players a platform to talk about these social injustice stuff as well. They gave all the players an opportunity to put phrases on the back of their jerseys, the Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter is actually going to be on the court. They're going to be trying to display as much social injustice information as possible, as much. Say her name, Breonna Taylor. Let's get the officers that killed, Breonna Taylor arrested. Now, there's going to be a lot of things that the NBA are going to enable their NBA players to do. So again, I wanted to give kudos to the NBA because I think Adam Silver has done an excellent job. And we have seen how there are some leaders in some certain sports, how they've handled certain situations and did not do a good job. We're seeing how Adam Silver has, again, done a really good job, and we can see why he's probably the best commissioner in all the sports, right? So we have all that going on. Now let's talk about the bubble. So these players are going to be in a bubble. Like I said, they come up with some safety protocols, and they're going to be in a bubble for about 3 to 4 months. They've been in the bubble since early July, and there's some players that joined late just because of, they have to make sure that they were coronavirus free before flying. So you may be wondering, like, how is this bubble stuff going to work? We just had a humongous pause in the season. We're going to be all in one place. There's going to be no fans. How is this really going to work? Because things are different, and this is really like the first time in NBA history something like this has happened. So we're going to have 22 teams in the bubble. There's going to be 13 teams in the West. There's going to be 9 teams in the East, okay? Now, the wrinkle that they have going on into this year is there's actually going to be a play-in game into the playoffs in both sides of the conferences. So you're going to have the 9 and the 8 seed playing in the East, 9 and the 8 seed team playing in the West, right? Now, here's the tricky part. If the 8th seed wins that first game, they automatically get that first game and automatically get that berth into the playoffs as the 8th seed. Now, if the 9th seed wins that first game, they're going to go ahead and play a second game, and the winner of that game will go ahead and earn that 8th seed. So that's probably the only new wrinkle to the playoffs. But honestly, what I would have liked to see, and especially in a time like this to where the teams are not necessarily traveling or anything like that, I would like to see a 16-seeded playoffs where conference doesn't necessarily matter. I mean, we're seeing the NBA going in a direction to where, there's no more conferences in the All-Star games, right? It's all one. I think that's going to be the next step for, the playoffs. I think if they make the schedule in a certain way to where Eastern teams are playing Western teams on a more and more basis instead of just their respective conference, I think this is something that they can do, and I would really like to see this. And here's why. In a situation to where we have 2 LA teams that are, pretty much favorites to make it to the finals, in the Clippers and the Lakers, just imagine if they met up in the finals and how intriguing, how exciting that would be for NBA basketball. I'm sure that might break records, viewing records that they already shattered a few years back if that final actually happens. So as a basketball fan, as an NBA fan, I mean, that's something that you want to see. You want to see the 2 best teams match up in the finals. And again, I think that's something that I want to see, and I think that's something that the NBA is going to, move forward. I think that's something that they will do with that. But all in all, this is really still a fluid situation. There's a lot of questions that we may have that we just do not have the answers now. And basically the answer would be time will tell. And time will tell on if we will be able to go through with the NBA season. Time will tell if the bubble will actually work. And time will tell if, there will be 0 positives all the way up until, the last game in October. So time will tell about a lot of things. But I know for sure right now, the season is going on, and I'm absolutely 100% excited about it. But again, thank you for watching the first ever episode with Hoops with KELZ. Again, it's your boy KELZ, where we talk everything NBA and WNBA. And I know I only talked NBA today, but my next episode will be a whole preview of the WNBA season and some of the games that has happened so far, what to look forward into the WNBA season. And not only that, I'm going to have a one-on-one conversation with seven-time All-Star, the 2012 WNBA MVP, Tina Charles. We're going to have an awesome conversation and touch a lot of different subjects, from basketball to her own personal career to social justice, and not only that, why she's actually sitting out in this upcoming WNBA season. But again, I want you guys to go ahead and drop a like, go ahead and subscribe to this channel. I'm going to be trying to make an episode every single week, and again, talking both WNBA and NBA. I hope you guys enjoy. I'm going to holler at y'all later.